Thank you so much for choosing to watch BWTM Sports Gaming. So the title of this video is Dillian Whyte The Rematch versus Alexander Povetkin. Current thoughts. So as you know, if you didn't already know, Dillian Whyte got sensationally knocked out by Alexander Povetkin in an interview. Dillian Whyte, according to a boxing source, said that he wasn't Sparko. He wasn't knocked out cold. He said that he was aware of what happened. He was hit by a good shot. He was dropped, but he wasn't Sparko. So, from what I saw, when he got hit with a shot, he was laid out cold. But the referee and Dillian Whyte and the referee, and probably Alexander Povetkin would be the three people to know whether Dillian was actually completely Sparko or he was not given a fair count. That was one of the arguments that were put up by David Hay, that Dillian Whyte probably didn't get a fair count. Oh, it's neither here nor there. They're not going to run the take back for that to change the decision as far as the boxing world are concerned, or the referee was concerned. You were knocked out. So, that being said, the rematch. Mr. Povetkin has confirmed that he is going to be taking the rematch. He says he's going to have a short vacation on his Twitter page. And then he's going to fight Whyte again, and then he's going to challenge for the world title. That's Povetkin's plans, according to him on his Twitter page. I mean, I would have thought Povetkin and his team would have thought, you know what, we don't want too many more of these hard fights. The next fight we want is for the heavyweight championship of the world. He's done all that's required of him, Povetkin, as far as I'm concerned. And if Whyte had beaten Povetkin, would there have been a rematch? I don't think so. People said, well, Povetkin's an old man, and Whyte would have gone and fought for the world heavyweight title. But obviously, that's not the case. So we have a rematch. So my thoughts about this supposed rematch. I don't like hearing that Whyte didn't think he was completely knocked out. And, you know, if he's saying he wasn't completely knocked out, is he suggesting he could have got up from that punch and continued fighting? That's a bit concerning, considering the impact of that punch. It was a very good punch, and Whyte was vulnerable when he got hit with it. And it looked like he was out before he hit the deck. Now, that punch was kind of similar to when Harold Graham got hit by Julian Jackson. If you look at the impact of the shot, but it's from a different angle. Harold was walking on, kind of walked onto the shot, and then kind of Povetkin came up and under, but then Jackson came over the top. The same sort of impact, hit so hard that they're out before they hit the deck. You understand? So they were basically knocked out before they actually touched the canvas. And the way he hit the canvas was pretty hard as well. It wasn't nice, you know, to get hit and land on the canvas like that. Sustain any sort of injury or concussion would be something. And I don't know how long concussions last with someone. There's, you know, I don't know how long concussion lasts, and if it's down to the individual or the medical side of things. But remember, this is a 40 or 41-year-old Alexander Povetkin that's knocked out Dillian Whyte. Let's not say this is a 21 or 25 or 30-year-old. This is a 41-year-old. This is a person that's in the decline, or as many would have said in the boxing world, an old man, finished. So to jump straight back in a rematch with a guy that was considered finished and an old man, you've already got beaten once by a 41-year-old. To go back again and fight this 41-year-old and get knocked out again, could that be curtains for your career? It's devastating to defeat the first time. But this now on top of it, another defeat. Let's stay positive while we can. So you go back into camp, you're training. It wasn't the first time. I've mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in the preview in this fight about Whyte's work sometimes being sloppy. The right hand, he leaves it out there sometimes. You can see the right hand coming, sloppy. Sometimes he throws punches, he's going off balance. And people like Chisora can't capitalize on that. Someone like Alexander Povetkin, when you get sloppy and at that level, they will punish you. They've been doing it all their career. They'll punish you. You know, I think Tony Bellew made a comment. He said that how Povetkin threw a once in a lifetime uppercut punch, and that he would never throw a punch as good at it again. Well, I would argue Tony Bellew, because he landed a great punch to knock out Carlos Takam in a good fight. He landed a big left hook to knock out David Price when he was in trouble himself in that fight. Remember the way he laid out, he knocked out Manuel Shah. Did he knock out Manuel? Sure, he knocked out Manuel Shah as well. So Povetkin, not for one way, shape, or form do I think that was a lucky punch. That was a practiced punch. That punch was thrown with intent. He set his feet, he planted it, he threw the shot. Only those people who want you to buy the pay-per-view, I want you to buy into the whole I don't know script that Povetkin was a walkover or Povetkin was an old man and he should have got dusted up and that was it. If you believe that script, then I'm afraid to say that you really don't know anything about boxing, because to be honest with you, that punch was practiced. Well, all the pad work they do over and over and over again. The thing is this: if you're going into a fight thinking that you made a little mistake, or I just made a little mistake, but I was winning the fight, if you go into the fight, into the rematch with that mentality, you're sure going to get beat. You're surely going to get beat, because especially, and you're going to go to Russia as well, you're surely going to get beat. You have to forget about that first fight. You have to forget that fight didn't even happen, because you didn't win that fight. Let's get something totally clear here. You didn't win the fight. You got knocked out brutally. One punch. I was making a mistake, and then I was doing well in the fight until I got clipped. Povetkin could say I was just warming up, and then from first round I could see the gap. I was warming up. Yeah, I got dropped because I was looking for the punch. I was looking for the punch, and I got dropped. I was looking for the punch, but then I found that shot, bang, and knocked him out. So Povetkin say, well, I was behind on the cards. I was behind on the cards because I was looking for the one shot, and I had so much belief I could knock you out with that one shot. No one's going to catch you. I knew I was going to get it. Bellew thought that he threw a once-in-a-lifetime shot. The way that Alexander showed such emotion. Well, Alexander showed such emotion because he was fighting for the WBC World Title Eliminator. And if he won that fight, he was going to be mandatory and get a shot at the world title, which is what he probably Alexander wants. So it was a jump of joy. Bellew jumped up as if to say, "Oh, it was a great win." But Povetkin has knocked out good guys. He's knocked good guys out. Do you understand? Povetkin's not a bum. Povetkin's an Olympic champion, a former world champion. So people who dismiss Povetkin are people who don't know the sport of boxing. So this rematch, lots of questions I ask. So like I said, if you buy into the hype that you did well in the fight, the strategy was okay, and all you did was make a mistake and got knocked out, then I would say to you all, be very careful with that strategy. Because if you go back in the ring with that same strategy, as in sport, if you go back in the ring in a rematch with the same strategy, Povetkin will say, you know what? I made some mistakes. I allowed him too much to do this, too much to do that. And Povetkin will work and work and work and know what the mistakes are. And in the rematch, it could be worse. Now, there's something I want to look at here. I want to look at something here, which is BoxRec. Come with me a second to BoxRec. And this is something on Dillian Whyte that I did say. I think in his career, let's just talk from the Chisora fight. So in 2016, he fought Chisora. In 2017, he fought Malcolm Tan. That's when he went to America. And then he fought Robert Helenius. Let's take it from the Helenius fight, where he won the vacant WBC silver title. So from Helenius, then in 2000, watch what he does in 2018. He fights Lucas Brown, right? He didn't knock Lucas Brown out in the first round. So he would have got hit a few times by Lucas Brown. Then the Joseph Parker fight. We know he got dropped in the Joseph Parker fight, right? Let's remember before that, the Derek Chisora first fight, what a war that was between him and Chisora. Big punches being exploded by both guys. Whyte being rocked and Chisora being rocked. Really good fight that was, toe-to-toe action. Then we go up to the Joseph Parker fight, where again, he got dropped in that fight and badly hurt. Then we go to rematch the Chisora fight. And look at the time scale, by the way. Look at this. So it was in March he fought. Then in July. Then again in December. So March, July, and December. 3 times in that year he fought. Three times. So you got then you had the Rivas fight, the Whack fight, and then the Povetkin fight. I asked myself the question, in all those fights he had, see, the Parker fight, the Chisora fight, and the Rivas fight, like I said in the preview to this fight, those guys, the mistakes that Whyte was making, the guys that he was fighting were unable to capitalize on the mistakes that Whyte was making. And Whyte was making, he made mistakes in the Chisora fight where he was, with the right hand. When one time he threw the right hand and spun himself around completely. But Whyte has done some good things and he's boxed well in fights. And I'm not here to knock Dillian Whyte. But my concern is, and the back-to-back fights he's had 3 times in 1 year, without much of a rest, I wonder how much that has done to his body. And more to the point, what it's done to his chin. Durability is something that's a very important component to a fighter. And I just wonder if those 3 fights he had, he was fighting very actively as a heavyweight. In fact, he probably was one of the most active heavyweights fighting in elite level. Rivas and Parker. Brown was ranked in the top 2 or top 3, I believe, or top 4 he was ranked. And Chisora, I think at one point he was in the top 10, Chisora. Parker, we know, was a former world champion. He just come off getting beat by Anthony Joshua. Oscar Rivas was unbeaten. He knocked out Bryant Jennings. So, in none of those fights, they were easy fights for Dillian Whyte. The Lucas Brown fight, well, yeah, I'll give him that. But the Parker, Rivas, and Chisora fights were tough fights. And they were back-to-back fights. Then he had that long camp as well. I'm not making excuse there. We had the Whack fight. We had all that stuff with the WBC, and then with the sample and the WBC. I just wonder if all those things caught up with Dillian Whyte. I do wonder. And he does talk often. If you listen to interviews about his mind not being on the job or his mind not being in the game, can you afford to switch off or your mind not to be in the game in a crucial rematch against Alexander Povetkin? Is there enough time for Whyte to iron out those weaknesses? Because to me, I don't see how he can rectify those weaknesses, technical weaknesses that he's been doing throughout his career. He's always been voluntarily putting his back against the ropes. And that's a danger for Dillian Whyte. Anytime his back goes against the ropes or close to the ropes, that's where he's most vulnerable. If you look at the Rivas fight, like I said, he didn't see the uppercut coming in the Rivas fight. He didn't see the right hand straight through the middle. So that's a defensive thing. So he's defensively irresponsible. He wasn't just defensively irresponsible in that fight. He was defensively irresponsible in the Rivas fight. Go back and look at the Rivas fight. It was an uppercut. Didn't see it coming. Then, again, the Parker fight. Again, a right hand straight through the middle. So this isn't this. Now he's got hit with an uppercut by Povetkin he didn't see and got knocked out. So he was boxing well in the Parker fight and he was boxing well in the Rivas fight. But then he got caught. And the difference between Rivas and Parker with Povetkin is that you're looking at a bona fide world-class Olympian who who's had or has a reputation to being a vicious finisher. We didn't even see the vicious finishing. We just saw the uppercut. That was enough. You know, it was called Povetkin the White Mike Tyson. You can see why. So, with all the training you're doing, and get yourself ready, and I believe the fight will be in Russia. So you're going to Russia, and that's a whole new set of dynamics altogether. So for you to go to Russia and to beat Povetkin, that is going to be one hell of a victory. And for you to get flattened by Povetkin in Russia, that's the nail in the coffin. Is it really worth that much for you to go in and fight Povetkin now? If it works out for you, who's the guarantee that you're going to get a shot at the world heavyweight title afterwards anyway? Because the mandatory shot was lost. And is there any stipulation in the rematch when Povetkin signs to you that Povetkin can't ask for a rematch should you beat him? And should Povetkin be honoured and given a rematch clause if Povetkin gets beat? And should the fight be pay-per-view? Is now Dillian Whyte a pay-per-view star? Was he ever a true pay-per-view star? I don't know. This question is to be asked. But one thing's for sure. If you go in there believing that it was a lucky punch and you believing that you could have got off the canvas to do something, or you believing that the game plan you had going into that fight was the right game plan and it was just a case of you getting caught, think again. Because you got caught by Rivas and Parker and Chisora. But those guys weren't the elite quality that Povetkin is. And that's the difference. Rivas had the right idea when he dropped you with the uppercut. He had the right idea. You didn't see it coming. So if somebody can tell me that the Rivas punch that dropped Dillian Whyte or the uppercut that knocked him out by Joshua or, you know, the straight right hand for him or the right hand, looped right hand through the middle of his guard were all mistakes. That's a lot of mistakes. That's a lot of mistakes. So, can you clean that all up and basically go into a rematch without making mistakes? Because Povetkin showed us already, all he needs is one punch. One. Wasn't an accumulation of punches. One punch. And what's your durability like now? After you've been hit on the chin that hard and laid out like that, is your chin ever the same again? You were fresher when you fought Anthony Joshua and you weren't fit then. What's going to happen with this fight now? How are you giving your time body to heal? Because you're going to have to go back into sparring again and get hit on that chin again? And the wear and tear? Really? To race for a rematch against a guy there's not really a surety you can beat? And let's think about it this way. Everyone talks about those knockdowns. Oh, Dillian Whyte knocked him down. Did you see how the kind of power for you to generate the sort of power that Povetkin generated in that fifth round to knock Dillian Whyte out? Povetkin couldn't have been that badly hurt because that means he'd had to get solid footing to put himself in position to throw that shot. If you're that badly rocked, you don't have the legs and strength in your legs to do anything. So they may have been just flash knockdowns. I don't know. One thing is for sure, Dillian Whyte won't be going into this rematch as they rush it into any better condition. He's going to be going into this fight damaged. And as I said, if his team can pull the win out for him in Russia, kudos to him. Kudos to him and his team. But that isn't the heavyweight championship of the world, remember. You've got a violent punching Deontay Wilder that's floating around. You've got guys like Andy Ruiz who've got a beautiful left hook, and if Whyte were making mistakes against Rivas and Chisora and Parker and Povetkin, you've got Andy Ruiz floating around the corner. You've got the highly talented Alexander Usyk who will make you miss and make you pay. You know, there's talk of Daniel Dubois or Joe Joyce being around. So really and truly, Whyte has to get this right and make this a clean fight and not a difficult, hard fight, and not get hit too often. Because he's going to have to go back into camp again. Think about it. He's going to have to go back into camp again, and he's going to have to go hard sparring to get himself the right game plan to provide Povetkin. Povetkin will do the same thing as well. The difference is Povetkin didn't get knocked out. So Povetkin's going to continue camp, and they're working on things that they could improve on. Dillian Whyte now, he's got a few technical flaws he needs to work on. Plus, he needs time to let his body heal. So it's a tremendous task they have ahead of them for this rematch. A tremendous task. And if they get through this, it will be amazing. I don't know if they can, but if they do, it will be amazing. And like I said, even if he gets past this fight, it doesn't guarantee him a shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. I'm sure the names like Luis Ortiz and Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce names will be thrown back in the hat again. And of course, he was talking about Andy Ruiz before. Andy Ruiz is this, Andy Ruiz is that. I'm sure Andy Ruiz would jump at the chance to take an opportunity to fight Whyte. And I'm sure that Andy Ruiz would love to get a third fight of Anthony Joshua. So if Andy Ruiz can get himself this fight against Arreola out of the way and wait for Dillian Whyte to try and get a win, even if he does beat Povetkin, I don't see an easy journey ahead for Dillian Whyte. Does he need to change his trainer, people ask? I don't know. But I do know that the strategy that was put up against to fight Povetkin, I personally thought, I'm not a boxing trainer, but I personally thought you're fighting a strategy to try and break down a guy that's far more experienced than you, and fighting at a slower pace was counterproductive. Whoever came with that game plan, I mean, even Stevie Wonder could see fighting that game plan against getting Dillian Whyte to be a boxer in this situation against Povetkin wasn't smart. Because you allowed the older man to warm up. What Dillian Whyte should have done is jump on the first round, jump on Povetkin, and try and put the pressure on Povetkin. You're trying to sit back and box. You allow Povetkin a chance to get into the fight. Then you warmed Povetkin up nicely for the fifth round to come do what he did to you. You make a lot of mistakes as it is in your attack anyway, but you're a better fighter than you are a boxer. You're a better fighter than you are a boxer. Against the likes of Chisora, that's okay. But against Povetkin, you better you work with your strengths. Work with your strengths. Your physicality, your aggressiveness, your boldness. Use that. Use that stuff. The stuff you did against Joseph Parker, that was nice. Where you were bullying Joseph Parker, that was nice. And Parker's a physically bigger guy than Povetkin. But that strategy would have probably been wiser than trying to sit back and box against Povetkin, because you ain't a better boxer than Povetkin. You're not a better boxer than Povetkin. There's nothing to suggest you are a better boxer than Povetkin. Do you understand? Just looking at Povetkin's amateur pedigree and what he's done, and being a world champion and what he's achieved. Do you understand? It's not a slight on you. It's just that if you use the strategy that you used against Parker, which I thought that was probably, despite you getting dropped against Parker, you looked really good that night. You bossed the fight against Parker. You looked more impressive against Parker than Joshua did. And that's the guy who was the Olympic gold medalist. You look more, until you got dropped, you look really good. You were bullying Parker. You dropped Parker twice in the fight. You know what I mean? You look top quality that fight against Parker. And that's what sort of thing I was expecting you to do against Povetkin. But oh no. Somebody wants to turn you into being a boxer now. Somebody wants you to sit on the back foot, use a jab, and try and box like Floyd Mayweather. No. Why? You look brilliant against Joseph Parker. Why would you even attempt to do that? Don't get it. And slow the fight down. That suits the older guy. Well, what do I know? What do I know? What did Stacey McKinley know? I don't know. What did Teddy Atlas know? And I talked about his strategy. I didn't even know Teddy Atlas had spoken to Dillian Whyte until after the fight, where one of the guys of YouTube said, "Hey, take a look at this, Ingram." I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. So before anyone says, "Oh, you're hating," if you know the history of me and talking about Dillian Whyte, I've always been a big supporter of Dillian Whyte, but there's a difference between constructive criticism and hating. And I'm basically saying the strategy you used against Povetkin led to your downfall. Whoever gave you that strategy to go in there, and I actually called it before the fight, the strategy that would be used: box, sit on the back foot, and for the most part, and break Povetkin down and slow. And I said the key to this fight is tempo. Now, when you don't do what you're naturally inclined to do, there's a tendency to switch off. We saw Dillian Whyte switch off in there and make a mistake. So, can you afford to take that approach again in a rematch and bank on the fact that you were winning rounds? Because ultimately, you may have been winning rounds, but what happened in the end? What happened in the end? You're no longer WBC champion. You no longer have that WBC mandatory spot. So that game plan equaled not good enough. That game plan equaled losing mandatory spot. So the result of you changing game plans to an untested model equals no world title shot. So you're going to go back with that model again. There are very few heavyweights that can box like that. I think very few. And I think you're a fighter, and that's where your strengths have been. So it's weird. A bigger man on the Lennox Lewis, for example. You think Lennox Lewis would have sat on the back foot and tried to box Povetkin? Lennox would have gone onto the front foot. You look at fights where he's fought smaller guys, Zelka Mavrovich, Evander Holyfield. He's gone after guys. He's even gone after guys like Glotta, is the same size as him, or a little smaller. He's gone after them. He's literally gone after them. Set the tone. Do you understand? You've got to have that confidence, set the tone. This is how it's going to be. You're getting it tonight. But we'll see. We'll see. The game plan will be key and the tone will be key. And I just hope that Dillian heals up enough for him to be able to achieve the dreams and the goals that he has set out. Let me know what you think about strategy and game plan going forward in this big fight. You've been watching BWTM Sports Gaming. We're out. Take care.